Hi everyone, Tyler here from TW-Waytek. Today we're going to be talking about how to populate a SharePoint document library's metadata using JSON and Power Automate. So let's get started. I work with a company called Extrackt.AI in the creation of this flow. So let's use an example of maybe a law firm or a legal department where they receive contracts and they want to keep a digital record of it, or if it's already in it as a digital record, so let's say as a PDF, we would essentially take that contract, email it to the AI service, which will extract key pieces of information, which you would determine, and then it's going to convert those key pieces of information into JSON. And then it's going to email that contract file and the JSON file back to the person that sent it. And that's going to be our trigger. And then from there, what we want to do is save the contract into a document library and then populate 4 columns in that document library with key pieces of information from the contract. The first step is going to be creating your document library. So I already have our document library created. I have 4 columns that I added to the library called contract number, date of signing, contract signed by vendor, contract signed by customer. So these are 4 pieces of information that the Extrackt.AI service is pulling out of the contract. And then we have the actual contract that will be saved here. So to create a new document library, you would go to your SharePoint site. On your left-hand navigation, or unless you have it up top, you would want to go to your site contents. And then from here, we're going to go up to new, and we're going to go document library. You can do a blank one or copy from an existing library, or select from templates. I just did a blank library, so you can do that and then name it, and then when you come to your library, you're just going to have these first 3 columns, and you're going to see this add column button. When you click on it, you have a choice of many different column types. So we have text choice, which would be a selection, date and time, multiple lines of text, a person, so that would be a person in your Microsoft 365 tenant, number, yes, no, hyperlink, a currency, location, image, and a lookup. So for this, I created 4 text columns. You have to make sure to match the data that you're putting into your columns. So if you pick a date and time and you put something else in there, then it's not going to recognize it. Could cause errors, especially in this case where we're populating the information via Power Automate. So for simplicity, it's easiest just to go with text, which I did here. So that's our document library, and this is what we're going to populate with our contract and the contract's metadata. Okay, so this is the flow that we're going to use to take the files from our email, save them to a document library, or save the PDF to a document library, and save the JSON file metadata into the PDF's document library metadata. So the first thing is our trigger, which is when a new email arrives. We want to include attachments, and I have it set up to go to a specific folder in my email. When it goes there, this will be our trigger. The next action is initialize variable. So this is going to create a variable for us. I named it PDF file ID. It's a type integer. We do not enter any value. The variable is used to store the file ID, the location ID in SharePoint, in the SharePoint document library. So when that file gets saved, it'll be in a specific row or a specific record in the document library, and we want to store that information in a variable. Next, so we're going to be saving two files. Essentially, we're saving the PDF file and we're saving the, well, we're saving one file, but we're looking for two separate files. So it doesn't matter how much is in the email, we're going to cycle through all of those files that are in the attachments, and we're going to identify the PDF and we're going to identify the JSON file. So the first thing we want to do is identify the PDF, and we want to save that to our document library. And we have this in its own apply to each. So create the apply to each action and add the attachments from the when email arrives action under the dynamic content. You can do that here. When email arrives, attachment. For conditions, save PDF. So we want to look at each file, and then we want to use a condition to say, okay, if we find the file that we're looking for, then do this. So in this case, we're setting up a condition to look through each attachment. We want to look for the attachment name, which again is dynamic content, and will be under attachment name. We want it to end with, and then a .pdf. And make sure you include the dot in there. Then, under the true section, we want to create a file. We can put in our, so this is going to be create file from SharePoint. Entering the site address that you want it to be saved to, add the folder path. More than likely you don't have a folder, and it'll just go to the root directory of your document library. For the file name, we're going to take the dynamic content of the file itself. So when the new email arrives, we'll look for under attachment name. For file content, we'll look for the attachment content here. It says content bytes. That's what this will show. After you run it, sometimes these names change, but this is what it is. So that's going to save the file in our document library. And now that we've saved it in the document library, we want to take the document ID or the document location ID, so the location of the file, and save it into our variable. So the action is going to be set variable. We're going to be selecting from the dropdown. There should only be one available variable, and we're going to use the body ID item ID for a value, and it's under dynamic content. There should only be two options, item ID and size, so we want the ID. And that's it for this apply to each. Okay, so the next part of our flow, we're going to look for the JSON file and grab its content and then save that content to the SharePoint document library. So the first action after our last action is, we'll start with apply to each, and we're going to, under dynamic content, choose attachments, should be your only option. Under the Outlook action, next, condition, true false. Yeah, that's great. So under the condition, you're going to select the file name under the dynamic content, under the Outlook action. So look for the attachment name here. Select the ends with, and then we want .json. So again, we're looking for the JSON file. So under the true condition, we want to use a compose action. Here we're going to write in, under the inputs, we're going to want to create an expression, and you're going to want to write in this text here, which is base 64 to string, in brackets item, and then in solid brackets content bytes. I'll make sure to leave that information that you can reference in the description. which will essentially be a link to my blog site, so you can get that there. So that's our compose. So we need to convert the JSON to a string in order to parse it. So our next action is parse JSON. Under the content, we're going to want to go to dynamic content and select the output from our compose action. Here we're going to want to click on the use sample payload to generate the schema. So now we want to open our JSON file. So from the email that you would get, you would want to open the JSON file. I have it here in our notepad. Here you would just highlight this information, copy it, paste it in line 1, and then go done. And then that's going to create the JSON schema. Then your next action is update file properties. So here you're going to put the SharePoint site and the document library name. Under the ID, we want to select dynamic content. Here is where we're going to use our variable for the location ID. So it should be your only variable. And mine is called PDF file ID. And then under advanced parameters, this is where you should see all of the available column headings that you created in the document library. And under each, you can select dynamic content, and under the parse JSON action, you should see your body and then the name of the column heading. And you can add that for each of your columns. And that's it. So let's save that and let's run a test. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is our SharePoint document library. So we have no files in it. I'm going to go ahead and shoot an email, which would simulate coming from the AI service. So now let's go and check our flow. Just give it a few seconds. It should trigger once it hits the email and gets moved to the specific folder. Okay, here we go. It's running now. Should only take a few seconds. So we can see here, it's finished. We come back here, we'll refresh the page, and here it is. We have our contract. We have our contract number, date of signing, who signed it. We're with the vendor that signed it, and then the customer that signed it. So if we come to our flow, we can see the success. So you see there was multiple files in the email. Some of those were like images that just come from the logo of the sender. So you see it will go through and find the file. So in this case, the first file was the PDF. You go through, you can see which file is going to be the JSON. So the third file was the JSON, and then that's it. And there you have it. So this is a great example of utilizing AI to extract information from a file, in this case a PDF, and then taking that information that gets from the AI service, getting converted over to JSON, and then being populated in a document library. There's a lot of great use cases for this. I use the example of a law firm or a legal department in a big company, but there are many scenarios where this could be very helpful. For more information on this video and more, make sure to visit my website at TW-Waytek.com. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description below. So that concludes my video. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel to get all the latest technology tips. and to visit my website at TW-Waytek.com, where you'll find even more tips and tricks. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.